Yeah. So little something impromptu, live, real quick. Jason here with Lord Don't Lose on Twitter. What's up, bro?
What's happening, man? I can't call it. Just ready for another week, man. Week 14, we here now.
Big week, right? Playoff week and everything.
Yes, sir. Most leagues will be in the first week of their fantasy football playoffs. So you can only imagine everybody's wanting to know what's the best way to go. They got a lot of fringe starters and stuff like that. So it's pretty busy during this time of the season.
For sure. And I mean, for the people, who are getting to know you now on this stream, like, tell the people where, where you write, where your content is and everything, everything that you got going on.
All right, for sure. You could first off, you get me at Twitter that you see on the screen here at Lord Don't Lose. Then on Instagram, it's at Fantasy Football Lord, and most of my content pretty much goes there for the time being. I also have a podcast that I put out every Tuesday after the week, reviewing the week, letting you know some players you should start, sit in your fantasy. So yeah, check it out.
No way already. So we got comments in. My bad. Didn't mean to cut you off, but so
I
look,
saw that too.
See, people already. So Jordan came in here already knowing how to get, people upset. First of all, they're playing the 49ers this week. And it would make me super upset if Peyton Barber was the one who actually benefited instead of J.D. McKissic, who I'm really big on this week because we know that Gibson's out.
Well, the thing about that is that's how the fantasy work, man. Like this, it sound crazy, but Peyton Barber getting the 3 touchdowns is what we least likely expect to happen. Watch that shit happen.
That's going to be exactly what happens, right? So it's so unpredictable, especially and then what's crazy is we have a sample size of, J.D. McKissic, 75 snaps, 30 snaps for Peyton Barber, but it'll be all of those ones where McKissic will get him to the goal line and then boom, just bring in.
And that's the thing about it. Peyton Barber, you could bet your bottom dollar if they get on that 1 or that 2, it's going to be him. You just got to hope that J.D. McKissic is seeing that same snap count percentage and that he's seeing that volume in the passing game, which he will, because that's what Alex Smith does. He checked down Charlie, so that's gonna happen. You just gotta hope that Peyton Barber, because he can steal 3 touchdowns. I don't know if the Redskins will even be scoring 3 touchdowns. We'll see about that, but I kind of expect a low scoring game with that. But if it gets to that 1 or 2, Peyton Barber was doing that when Antonio Gibson was playing earlier in the season.
Right.
So
that's even more annoying, right? Like that's the thing, right? It took Gibson forever to really break out, and we really were I was waiting on him and we got it. And then, unfortunately that turf toe, once you hit turf toe, you're he's out multiple weeks. That's
something that's, and you never really know when you gonna bounce back from that.
Right. And I think people downplay try to have your big toe messed up and see how you could even walk around, let alone play football.
A lot of folk think it's just this one little toe.
Yeah.
All right. That could be the worst thing.
Exactly. So Zach says Gallman from the Giants are going to have 2 TDs this week against the Cardinals. You know what? He's played really solidly, man, when he's been pressed into duty. I know they brought in Devontae Freeman to, be the guy, but once he got injured, it's so funny that they had the answer in their backfield after Saquon went down there the entire time, and they could have just went right to Gallman. He's played pretty well.
And the reason I think that you saw the Giants pick up Devontae Freeman was because prior to this year, when Gallman got his opportunity to get in there for Saquon, he didn't do much. Mm-hmm. And who was expecting him to do anything this year as well? So, that's kind of where we at with that now. But hell, he on fire now. The 2 touchdowns because he's been so hot. The Cardinals gotta have this game, but then so do the Giants. The over-unders are 46 and a half, so that's not crazy high. So, I could see him getting at least 1.
Mm-hmm. And Daniel Jones is allowed to play this game, apparently. So they said that they tested his hamstring today, and he should be a go for tomorrow. So that changes things. If it's Colt McCoy, then a lot of those plays – I don't know how much they would test his hamstring and force him to run, but you know that Daniel Jones can.
Yeah,
And if he's out there, even if the hamstring's bothering him, then they got to feel confident that he can still protect himself, right?
that's part of his game. So I don't
Yeah.
like if Big Ben got that same injury, you like, all right, whatever. But Daniel Jones, like, he doing the read option and going straight. He don't got no moves or nothing, but
Right.
he'll hit that thing straight and
He
get
got
going.
the sniper move. So Jordan has a question real quick for it. So I think this is a good segue because I was gonna do this real quick while we get more questions and things like that. But who's a guy that's like normally a stud, somebody that you're nervous about this week? I mean, not in a situation where you have to like really play them, but somebody that you're trying to stay away from that you probably normally would play.
Well, who quickly comes to mind? I mean, Todd Gurley is an easy answer, because he's that knee flaring up again. He's now starting to share touches with not only Brian Hill, but Ito Smith. Now, Raheem Morris did say that Todd Gurley would get more of the workload a week removed from his last missed game, but it's still something. Even when he was playing games, you depended on the touchdown. It is Chargers. They're not great, but I wouldn't be banking on Todd Gurley this week. Another guy that came to mind was Miles Sanders. More so him because
that's interesting. That's a good one, I think, honestly. Just because, it's obviously a tough matchup, and then there's the quarterback change. So, you the way he was being utilized with Wentz, like, do we know how he's going to be used with Jalen Hurts? And can you take that chance in playoff week? That was a really good one, I think.
No,
and
that's what I'm saying. What was the stat? The Saints haven't given up a touchdown in like 50 something drives. And not to mention, they haven't. Doug Peterson hasn't even been using Miles Sanders. They abandoned the run so quickly. It's like it's not even worth it to try. So you got that reason that he's not being used. You got the fact that they're playing the Saints defense, who, hell, they might be the best defense in football right now, or one of them. They one of the best defenses in football because you got Pittsburgh out there. So you put those two factors together, then the fact that they have Jalen Hurts starting in his first game. That's a guy who was drafted to be your RB2 with RB1 upside that you probably should be sitting if you have better options in the fantasy playoffs.
It's crazy, man. So look, we got some questions. So this is a good one. This one's pretty close, actually. It shouldn't be this close, but it is a little bit more of a discussion.
It shouldn't be this close.
So Ahan asked, start Mike Davis against Denver or Zeke against Cincy full PPR. I have Zeke on a few of my rosters, man, and I've just been starting him, like an idiot. Like I just keep starting him. You have to remember and value what you can deal with. Can you deal with benching Zeke and him going off on your bench? If you can, then I guess you might want to think about Mike Davis. I don't want to see that 30 spot on my bench because I the one
especially versus Cincinnati.
Right, that's the thing.
So in this case, I'm gonna go Zeke. Okay. Even though it's crazy, Mike Davis might have more usage. However, the Panthers will be playing a better defense in the Denver Broncos. For a couple of weeks now, the Denver defense has been playing respectable. You saw them play against the best offense in football, and despite Drew Lock throwing 2 picks, they still only gave up 22 points. They lost by 1 score to the Chiefs. So even though Mike Davis will have that workload, I'm going to lean Ezekiel Elliott because they're playing the Bengals. They're playing a team that's having trouble scoring since they lost Joe Burrow. And if you have trouble scoring, your team is going to have the ball back. It's going to be a cold game. You usually favor the run in those games. And Zeke ran pretty decent last game against the Baltimore Ravens. So when you put all those factors together, I got to go Zeke here. Even though Tony Pollard, man.
No, he's really good, man. He needs more touches.
Listen, off track real quick. We've talked about a lot of Memphis running backs the few. You got Gibson, Darrell Henderson, man. Pollard might be the best one. Just don't have the opportunity yet. But I would go Zeke over Mike Davis in that situation.
Perfect. And then we got another one. And I agree with you. The Zeke, like I said, I can't bench him and just watch him go off, and especially in this. And the only thing that I keep forgetting about the Cincinnati game is, man, Andy Dalton revenge game.
That too. And I don't even like Dalton ain't gonna throw 5 touchdowns.
No.
He just want to win the game.
Yeah, and he's gonna do whatever it takes. Right. So Kid2 King asks, at the moment I'm starting Debo and Ayuk. Full PPR. Would you play AB or Tyler Boyd over either? That's intriguing. Yeah, you go first.
Yeah, I wouldn't go to 2 San Francisco receivers. I will go 1, and you gotta go a big dog Debo. Ayuk is he's been a big play splash guy. As soon as Debo came back from the injury, volume. They was getting him the ball here, there, in the run game, in the pass game. There's no George Kittle. So Debo Samuel is the top option in that offense right now between him and Raheem Mostert. I would actually go in this situation, Debo and Antonio Brown, actually.
Yeah. And the reason that I would pick Antonio Brown to fill in one of these spots is because Minnesota's banged up. Eric Kendricks is not playing. They've already got a suspect secondary. You're going to suspect that they're going to have to throw the ball. And, since Antonio Brown's been there, it almost feels like, I'm sure that I've heard somebody say this. I'm not going to act like it's my own thought, but the offense has kind of gone in the basement since Antonio Brown's gotten there because he seems to get a ton of attention, right? Like he's not even looking Evans' way. He's not even looking Godwin's way, which, again, this week, I know you have to play Evans and Godwin, but you really don't feel confident at this point. Not when you did, like when you drafted them, or you thought what you were going to get from
them.
Not
at all, because and it's because any one of them could score at any moment. And AB, he ain't scored yet since he been with the Bucs. So, what better time to do it than versus the Vikings, who, like you said, that they're banged up, they stink, and the over/under is 52.5, one of the higher games. One of the higher over-unders. So I would go AB, Tyler Boyd. I mean, like I just said, it's hard for them to score. He had a 72-yard touchdown catch and run last week. I ain't trying to sweat that out. I mean, you saw how fire, like T. Higgins was on fire with Joe Burrow. Yeah. Soon as he was gone, you couldn't even start on no more. I was just getting in the groove with T. Higgins. Like, I could start this dude every week. You can't start no Bengals receiver, man.
Nope.
I will go Debo and AB and Debo, as we know, rest his soul. The real Debo, Tiny Lister, just passed away.
He did.
Yeah, rest his soul. And they actually knew each other.
They did.
They knew each other. So Debo about to come out balling this game.
That's a good point. Honestly, that's a really good point. And it's so funny because they just had the the ESPN segment and everything out there too, like right before it sucks, man. But here we got another question. Ahan Malik again. Start AB or AJ Brown. I think that's pretty easy. I think that's AJ Brown. There's never any scenario where I could see myself not playing AJ Brown. I don't care what I get. If I get 4 points, I don't care. There's no way I'm not starting AJ Brown.
He's too dominant of a receiver. By far the number one option in their passing game, which, they want to run the ball first, but he's still the number one, and he just too dominant of a player. If he's not having a day, it's like he could make himself have a day. Mm-hmm. He ran an onside kickback for a touchdown just to put icing on the cake. He already so happy. Did you see a couple weeks ago the touchdown to get them into overtime versus the Ravens? He wasn't supposed to score that touchdown.
Right, they lifted him up and he went in.
Hey, yeah, he dragging dudes into the end zone. So yeah, AJ Brown over Antonio Brown all day.
Right. So Jordan has another question. So Tom Brady or Josh Allen this week? Normally, this probably wouldn't seem like a question that you'd be asking, especially considering the way both of these guys are playing. But Josh Allen is taking on Pittsburgh this week. Tom Brady is against Minnesota. We just did talk about the upside with Tom Brady this week. I think it depends on your format, but I think it's still Josh Allen this week, even with Pittsburgh in town, because he's just playing too well. And I think that they're a little bit more banged up in Pittsburgh than people realize on defense. And you're not going to be able to hold him down all game, man. Stephon Diggs is playing at another level right now, man.
I'm going to agree with you there. The Pittsburgh, like Josh Allen has had to kind of turn around this year. like what Lamar Jackson had last year. Not that good, but he's made the leap. In this case, the Pittsburgh defense I don't fear them in this instance because it's like when you just know that your player's gonna perform, it's like Josh Allen, he doesn't have bad fantasy football performances.
Nope.
Tom Brady, now he's probably gonna light up the Vikings because he's coming off the bye, he's coming off a loss. But if Minnesota decides one day, if they decide tomorrow that, hey, we don't ever do this, but we're going to get some pressure today, well, then it's over for Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. For Josh Allen, you could throw the kitchen sink at him. He's going to find a way. He was looking down a few weeks back versus I'll use this as an example. He was looking down versus the Chiefs earlier in the season, but he found a way to make that a game. Hasn't always played great, but fantasy-wise, he's found a way. And while he won't go for 375, 4 touchdowns, and 0 picks against the Steelers, or you wouldn't think that he would, I will go Josh Allen over Tom Brady.
Okay. Here, so Laz Lugo has a good question. I left Akers on the bench. So did I, Laz. I'm hurting. I'm hurting right now. I left him on the bench as well. Yeah. So CEH, Josh Jacobs, or Hunt. So I assume that you have a flex position that you can play all three of them, hopefully. If not, go in the comments. But is it one or two of the three that you have to pick? So let's just say we have to pick two. Pick two.
Well, first off, for him who left Akers on his bench, with these options that you have, I don't even think it's a crazy decision, to be honest, man, because you never know. Like last week, Akers had 22 carries. They could have flipped the script and gave him 7 carries or something. Hopefully you could get through this week, and we're going to help you do that here.
There you go.
Evans and flex. Nick Chubb is RB1. So you have
the RB2.
So you got the RB2 position. All right, so
these are some good options, man. These are some really good options also. Kudos to you in your draft.
Right. Man, the Clyde Edwards-Helaire thing is that got me kind of nervous. I would say Josh Jacob if he plays. I don't know if that's been confirmed yet, but I will go.
Who's on the schedule for them? The Raiders this week.
The Colts, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah. I would still go there.
Mm-hmm.
I would still go there because out of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Josh Jacobs, and Kareem Hunt, Josh Jacobs will see the most touches.
Mm-hmm.
The Raiders at some point, they're gonna be at the goal line, and that's gonna be Josh Jacobs. If it's Devontae Booker, then bless your heart, man. I feel for you. That you're gonna suck.
It's crazy because I had always been on like the never Devontae Booker, but then here I found myself in a league where it's like deep rosters that I wound up picking him up. Man had 16 touches for like 64 yards. I was like, yep, that's Devontae Booker, all right. Like that's exactly what I get.
I didn't. I had Josh Jacobs in the league, and somebody stole Booker from me.
Yeah,
I was like, whatever, man.
Enjoy, bro. Right?
He'll do good when Josh Jacobs is playing on his little 3 touches. But
so John has a question. So this is daily fantasy. Is this a DraftKings roster question? How did you land them? Is that a draft? Oh, no. So I think that's his regular regular seasonal league. Yeah.
And I could see how you could get that on a roster.
Yeah. I mean, especially because I was in drafts like it depends on when you have drafts, right? And people were scared, like people let Kamara fall because he had like a little the
contract thing, yeah.
Right. Like you could see yourself where you got like, a Kamara, and you probably got like, unfortunately one of those top 3 guys wound up getting injured or having a bad year. McCaffrey, Barkley, Zeke. Like it's been an insane year, man. But
I had one guy ahead of Alvin Kamara coming into this season. And that was Saquon Barkley. And I had CMC number 3, actually. So those two are going to that's going to mess up my rankings a little bit.
Woo! Now they're putting the screws to us now. So Kidsu King has another question. So goodness gracious. You guys with these rosters, and look at all of these players. Allen Robinson, Godwin, Jefferson, Scary Terry, Myles Gaskin, Josh Jacobs. 2 and
Well, at least he need 4 people, man. Sometimes I get like 5 players for one spot. I'm like, bruh, your guess is as good as mine. You know what I'm saying? At least he need 4 people. So with the 2 receivers, I gotta go Jake Jeff. He
Have
just
to.
he too good. He balling. He in his bag.
Yep.
At receiver,
Ooh.
the next one between Scary because I'm gonna go Miles Gaskins.
Yeah, he definitely has to play. That's the first. See, that's what's funny is that you read my mind right there. He's a top 10 back this week. Again, you have to remember all of the work, not nobody else behind him. Savannah Med not playing, Matt Breida. Literally, it's all Miles Gaskin. No matter who the quarterback is, that sort of volume's not out there. So yes, Miles Gaskin's in, and you read my mind on that one.
So that's one of the flex spots. I feel like I have to go Jacobs in the other flex spot because it's again, he's going to be the guy getting the workload, and so Godwin I'm going to cross off. So I got Justin Jefferson, and I'm going to go Terry McLaurin.
Okay.
Over it hurts to bench Allen Robinson.
Yes. Yes.
But Terry McLaurin had a stinker last week, 2 for 14. So he got to come back swinging it week. So I will go Justin Jefferson, Terry McLaurin. Basically, the last 4 on your list right there.
2 and 2. Yeah, that makes sense, honestly. And I can see, that's the one that I struggle with, right? It's the Allen Robinson McLaurin thing. Like, I think it's been overstated about how bad Allen Robinson's quarterbacks have been, but he still is the exact focal point of that. Yes, he's the focal point, though. So I think that when it comes to that sort of volume, I get more nervous about Terry being held back because of who his quarterback is. No disrespect to Alex Smith. It just seems like, it's harder to get him the ball because everybody's focused on him. There's not as many, worries on the other side. So
by the way, Allen Robinson, put that man on Green Bay, and he will be doing what the guy in Green Bay is doing. Trust that.
Man, what's funny is we talk about like, oh, if only he had a quarterback, but he had that choice between the 2 teams and he chose Chicago. He could have signed with Green Bay. I don't get it.
Though? He wanted to be the man. That's how, that's how I go.
So let's see. Man, I made a trade for D Swift for Gibson, but then right after both Swift and Golladay went down. Yeah, I mean the Lions have been such a roller coaster when it comes to their fantasy options, man. Especially with Golladay. Golladay just isn't going to play the rest of the year, right? Contract year. I think that he's not even going to try to risk it, right? Like, why at this point?
And they'll probably try to re-sign him. The Detroit Lions, man. I remember answering the question in the preseason. I said to because there was a lot of hype with DeAndre Swift, and as we know, he didn't get off to a good start to the season. But before the season, everyone was like, he'll be the guy, and he will. He is actually, but I don't ever trust no Lions players, dog.
Right. Yeah, and then Jordan says, this is for you. So remember when Godwin was a top 5 dynasty wide receiver? Yeah, man. I have him on so many of my rosters, and I'm just like, this really stinks, man. Like, I thought I had it right here. Here's a good one. This is a good one. So who to flex with Swift, half-point PPR? Kiki, JD, AB, or Tyler Boyd? I tried to keep it together with the sounds, and I couldn't figure out the last one, like with Boyd. So that's
well, is he? He's saying who to start at flex with Swift.
So I guess and who replaces Swift if he's not active? Okay, so I guess he's gonna start Swift. Okay, yeah.
So it's crazy, but I will go AB again. We already crossing off Tyler Boyd, right?
Yep.
Kiki QT had a big game last week.
He has 2 flex spots, he says. So
then I would go.
Oof.
Now that's tough between QT and McKissick. I'm gonna have to go McKissick, and that's just me banking on him playing the same snaps that he did last game after Gibson went out. And what you noticed about that too with JD McKissick playing over 70% of the snaps is the Redskins was always in the game.
Yep.
They preferred JD McKissick in there a lot more than Peyton Barber.
So here's the thing too, is I think that's the point of why I would leave McKissic here and why I'm pretty much calling him a must start this week, even given the matchup, is because he's game script proof, right? So if they're in catch up mode, he's all on the field. If they're close in the game, he's still on the field. Yeah. So it's not,
if they're in catch-up mode, there is no Peyton Barber whatsoever.
Exactly. Not that I expect the 49ers to be in a spot to be leading them, but I think that's what makes me that's what makes me lean McKissic, where I say he's game script proof. He's volume, like he's gonna have his 10 targets, 10 targets, 10 catches, 70 yards. That's how many fantasy how many PPR points that you'll take, all day on top of carries. Come on, man. So here, I have a question for you. So going into the playoffs, who's a guy that you hope that is on your roster that is about to win leagues for people?
So this guy was he was expected to have a breakout season. Mm-hmm. He did not do that by any stretch of the imagination, but now he's starting to get more involved in the offense. He's scoring touchdowns now, and he has a decent schedule coming up, and that's Marquise Hollywood Brown.
Okay, so that's spicy because the fantasy community's down on him right now.
And that's exactly okay. Which I actually just picked it. I got into the playoffs and I just picked him up just to throw him on the roster.
Makes sense.
He scored 2 games in a row. Lamar is looking his way, and he's kind of starting to get it going now. They got Cleveland this week, which will be a battle. But if you could get through that, they've got the Giants, the Jaguars, and the Bengals is week 17, but that's somebody that could, if you're down a receiver or you're down a position in the flex spot, that could be somebody that you could throw in who wasn't a guy you was taking him out of your starting lineups by week 3 or 4. We'd all given up on him. We moved on. Mm-hmm. But based on those factors, I expect him to help you in it. He's not a league winner per se, but he could help you do that.
So and then I have up the consensus rankings for him right now for this week, in Cleveland, right? And the tier that he's in is really interesting because people are going to be forced to start some of these guys, especially in deeper leagues, right? So let me just read off some of these names that are around Hollywood this week: Michael Pittman, Mike Williams, Sterling Shepard, Alan Lazard, Curtis Samuel, Jerry Jeudy.
If I had to, the only person I would consider out of all that would be Mike Williams because he's facing the Falcons.
Okay.
Maybe Alan Lazard because they're facing the Lions.
Okay. See, the only thing that I'm big on Alan Lazard, and I think that he really took a step this year. But what LaFleur said this week is scaring me about him. About we're still having him on a pitch count and things like that. So that scares me about him this week. Like
that's out of
if he's a desperation play this week, he's still going to see 25, 30 snaps. You just got to hope that he sees the ball right in there. So high scoring QB league, had Dak been streaming on bye this week? Start Hurt then so I think this is a good question. Tell me your thoughts about how Jalen Hurts, I think in single quarterback leagues isn't as much of a priority unless the waiver wire is barren and you have something bad. But in 2 QB leagues and super flex leagues, which I love playing in, bro, like I'm addicted to them. I wish
I could play in more of those.
Yeah, I mean, I even got my home league to switch to a 2 QB league. I don't know how I did it, and then I don't ever want to go back. But that's really where he would be used. What would be your confidence level in the fantasy playoffs to roll him out against, we just said, this Saints defense, knowing full well that he was put into that game against the Packers and showed a little bit of life with that offense?
He did show a little bit of life, but this week is not the week. Man, if it happens, we'll just be like, hey, kudos to you, Mr. Hurts. Mm-hmm. But I'd actually probably start a guy like Mitch Trubisky over Jalen Hurts because of he's got a decent playoff schedule. Houston, Texas defense, they're nothing to be crazy about. I would look for somebody like that over a Jalen Hurts, a Phillip Rivers,
right?
A Derek Carr.
So that's the tier that we're in right here too. So I'll read off some of the names, and you tell me if there's anybody here that you would be more comfortable playing, over Jalen Hurts. So in this same tier, right? Derek Carr, Teddy B, Jared Goff, who played already on Thursday, ended with 15. He did get a rushing touchdown, which kind of helped his day, but they didn't really need him in that game. Yeah. Then Cam, who played also, that probably didn't work for you. Jalen Hurts and Andy Dalton.
I would actually take a shot at Dalton. Like you said earlier, revenge game. So yeah, Dalton, Carr. I want Jalen Hurts to do good. But man, he's made Tom Brady, Matt Ryan, the Saints defense has made them dudes look like rookies, and now they actually going against a rookie. Now he is mobile quarterback who can run the ball. That should help him a little bit, but he not nearly as accurate as those quarterbacks that I just named, and they was heating their asses up. So I would see, even if Jalen Hurts doesn't have a great week, you just want to look for some promise, and then you could consider starting him week 15.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense, right? Like, and if you did pick him up on your roster, is to put on the bench and see what happens. And if he blows up, then it's like, okay, I just wouldn't have the confidence to go to him in the first week like this, especially we talked about it, not a single quarterback league. In a super flex league, I could see if you look at your opponent and he's stacked, and you need to take a shot. I understand that. I understand that. Like some of these divisions, I'm in these dynasty leagues that I joined from Reddit, bro. And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm in the playoffs. I look at some of these teams and I'm like, how did they allow, the one guy has Kamara and Henry and Devontae Adams and I'm like, wait a minute, how did you and he traded all his picks away to get it. And I'm just like, I have no shot this week, pretty much.
Yeah.
Here's the one. So from Clutchful, you're talking to the right one when you ask Atlanta Falcons questions. Lord is a big Falcons fan. So where do you rank Calvin Ridley for the playoffs? We know that Julio Jones is out this week. And Matt Ryan tends to play worse without. Imagine that. He
actually does play worse when Julio is out of the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
He's only completing 50. Coming into week 13, Matt Ryan was only completing 54% of his passes without Julio and 69% with Julio. Now, that being said, as far as Calvin Ridley, the thing about Calvin Ridley, he does better when Julio's in the game. That's just the fact. Last week he had 5 for 108 and a touchdown. Julio was there for 6 for 94. You still got that. Now, Calvin Ridley, he'll be the number one receiver. The only thing I'm not worried about him. Mm-hmm. Because the first game Julio was out this year, Calvin Ridley went over 100 yards receiving. Mm-hmm. I'm not worried about him. I'm worried about how Matt Ryan will get his game going with no Julio. I'm worried about how the defense doesn't have to worry about Julio Jones, and they know Calvin Ridley is. But now Russell Gage will be there, but it's a far drop off after Calvin Ridley.
And he was so hot early in the season. When Julio was even there, he was seeing a ton of targets, and then all of a sudden it just went away with Russell Gage. It's so disappointing because he was like a plug and play guy.
That's because his best value is when both of those guys are on field. Sometimes getting rid of the one guy doesn't always help you.
100% agree.
But I mean, you still gotta like Calvin Ridley as a top 10 receiver going into the playoffs. If you have Calvin Ridley on your team, in fact, Julio will miss this week, and they're considering actually shutting him down.
No.
For the rest of the season, because the Falcons are 4-8.
Yeah.
Julio still has 3 years on his contract. And as we've seen when he's played this year, in the games he hasn't had to deal with a hamstring injury, he was averaging over 100 yards a game. Mm-hmm. So they may not want to risk that. So Julio could be out for the rest of the season. That's something we'll have to watch for after this week. And if that's the case, you could fire up really even more. But regardless,
Exactly. Don't say that. Like that hurts our hearts, man. Like, I have
Listen,
hey,
hey,
I get it. I get it.
I need them too,
Yeah.
but when it comes to the NFL and players and the coaches, man, they got to do what they got to do.
Right.
That new coach and that new GM that the Falcons gonna have, they're gonna want Julio at tip top shape.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So let's go over this question one more time, just because he said he got off the phone or whatever and he couldn't. So I think we both said AB and McKissic in this.
Yeah.
And so that it's just volume again with McKissic, and that he's going to get playing time, and like we said, he's game script proof. So I think that one's good for that.
And with AB, man, he's had a game where he caught 7 catches for 69 yards. This has got to be the time he have a game. Like
gets in a study.
The Bucks need to win this game. First off, They can't afford to lose this game. And this time, AB just has his game. Tom Brady been looking for him ever since he been with the team.
Here's a good question. Choose one for flex, full PPR: Hunt, Gallman, Brandon Cooks, and is Deontay Johnson and Mike Evans a safe wide receiver 1 and 2 this week? Deontay's safe. I'm not worried.
Yeah, Deontay Johnson, man, that's definitely the safest Pittsburgh receiver. For Chase Claypool, you're looking for big play. For Juju Smith, you're gonna get 7 catches for 9 yards.
Yeah. He just runs everything underneath, and Ben's just getting the ball to him there. It's just
Deontay Johnson is getting it short, medium, deep.
And he makes people miss, and he's a little bit more dynamic. Imagine if he cut the drops out.
Yeah, that's hell. That go for everybody on the Steelers.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, Deontay Johnson, best route runner in that group. So I would say, and Mike Evans, yes, because again, we expected some type of shootout. Vikings DBs ain't that good on the NFL level, and really neither are the Bucks. Now the Bucks do have a fierce front seven. They ain't gonna give you the run.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook he might struggle, but they'll still get it going. They'll give Dalvin Cook the volume, but yeah, those are. So you got Mike Evans, you got Deontay Johnson.
Playing both. Yep, I agree.
And out of these, it is because
Chicago.
At some point, Gallman got to come back to earth, right? But it's not like the Arizona Cardinals is giving off any resistance to folks. They're not giving resistance. Kareem Hunt, he's a glorified like RB2 on somebody's team.
Yeah.
Like Nick Chubb has been on absolute fire since he came back. The fact that the fact that he's 5th in rushing in the league and he missed 5 games, that's ridiculous. I'm gonna cut out Brandon Cooks.
Tough matchup this week against Chicago. I don't really like that either.
It's just the whole but the crazy thing, we said to bench QT on another question. We saying it about Brandon Cooks, but I have a lot of faith in Deshaun Watson. I just don't know where he gonna get I don't know where he gonna go with it. You know what I'm saying? There's that other guy too that came on. Cannot remember his name. He had a career day, 8 catches, 100-something yards.
For who? Chicago?
The Texans.
Oh, for the Texans. Hansen, Chad Hansen.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't want to mess with that. I would rather just go Gallman because that's the guy.
That's the answer.
Guy. Especially if Daniel Jones play, that's gonna be a game.
Yeah. That's the pick right there. Gallman's got the guaranteed volume. He's been playing well. They should see some scoring opportunities in this game. Arizona's defense isn't exactly great. He's been playing well and he's been utilized. They don't even really utilize a 3rd down guy. Like Dion Lewis isn't there. So yeah, man. I think it's Gallman. Honestly, I think you got to stay with him. He's a top 12 back this week. Yeah. Clutch 4 has another question. Who will be a safer weekly flex play, Myles Gaskin or Robert Woods? Gaskin's going to get more touches. It's the quality of those touches, I guess, that's what you'd be scared of. But I think if we're talking about a weekly flex play, it's Gaskin all the way.
Gaskins, and that ain't even close for me. This matchup and the matchups they got coming up.
Yep. This week it's so Gaskin is going to be a top 10 back this week. I mean, at least that's where he's ranked.
That was actually Gaskins was actually who I was gonna mention after
League
Hollywood
winner.
Brown.
League winner.
Yeah, Kansas City, New England, and Las Vegas coming up. He could do work in all of those.
Yep.
All
yep.
of
And that's the best part too. Is like again another guy who's game script proof because they throw him the ball. You know, especially Tua. You know,
he looked good catching the
Yes,
ball too, like
sure.
natural pass catcher out of the backfield.
For sure. So yeah, it's definitely Gaskin. Here we got another question from Laz. Robbie Anderson, Corey Davis, Mike Evans, or Michael Pittman. So we got to pick 3 and bench 1. Woof. This
So
is
one. Well, I'm going to start Robbie Anderson. DJ Moore's out.
Yep.
So we're going to go Robbie Anderson right there.
One.
Gonna go Mike Evans.
2.
This one is hard.
Corey Davis.
I've been telling people to sit Corey Davis all season, and every time he just
He's going crazy. That was tough. I mean, right now, as it stands, he looks like he's being ranked as a top 20 receiver this week. It is Jacksonville.
Corey Davis, fire that up.
Yeah, and I think
Pittman is going against the Raiders, but T.Y. Hilton's and Phillip Rivers the past couple weeks have been building up that chemistry, and Hilton is coming back. So give me I would bench Michael Pittman in that situation.
Yep, that one works for me too. So let's see. So a 49ers fan, stay objective. I'm gonna let you answer the question first. Raheem Mostert this week against Washington football team, or Wayne Gallman against the Arizona Cardinals?
I'm gonna go Gallman again. I'm actually battling with myself to start Mostert or Gaskins, but I've already decided as Gaskins because Mostert is actually better than Gallman, but Mostert has Jeff Wilson and are the other two 49er running backs, are they alive? Are they hurt?
Everybody's healthy. So, I mean, that's the thing, right? So it's Mostert, it's Wilson, and then you're not going to see Tevin Coleman. Jerick McKinnon, that experiment's kind of over at this point because he just kind of ran out of gas. And, so it's those two.
Mostert going to have like 12 carries for 55 or 12 carries for 115 because he break off that 7. And when he get out there, nobody's catching him. So you don't want to sweat that out. Just go Gallman because he doesn't he's going against the weaker defense and he's getting the volume.
Look, my 49ers heart wants me to tell you Mostert, but I actually am going to tell you Gallman too. And for furthermore to the points that Lord just made, man, it was troubling to hear this week that Mostert said that he's still not 100% on that ankle, which probably has something to do with what we saw on Monday. So that's also a concern. And again, tougher matchup. You throw the ankle in there. Gallman's safer. Gallman's been playing really well. I think it is Gallman this week. So me trying to be objective. Another 49ers question, and I'll let you reiterate your point earlier just for anybody who wasn't here. Do you think Deebo Samuel is a good fantasy start versus Washington? Thinking quick bubble screens or versus to slow down the pass rush? That's from Matt Moses.
Well, Matt, you thinking correctly because that's exactly how they want to give Deebo the ball. And then he makes things happen. He going to run around you or he going to run through you. So like you say, bubbles, quick screens, jet sweeps, reverses, and then he could do it in the regular passing game as well. He could go intermediate and get those routes like that as well. So he's going to be heavily dependent upon. If I had a flex spot, I would go Deebo over Mostert. Like I'm feeling really good about Deebo just from here on out, really, mainly because that's their best player on the offense with George Kittle not playing.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's always what it's going to be, right? The volume and everything. We didn't see it too much last week. He didn't get his first catch until the third quarter, but you realize that fantasy football is not about, when you get your points. It's just, do you get your points? And he wound up doing that, The thing with Ayuk is that, man, he's either getting 60 over 60 or a touchdown like almost every week, man. And he's been really developing. Like, I just wish that, if the quarterback play was better, man, I think that people would look at Ayuk a little bit differently. And
that would be a more formidable duo.
Yeah. So let's see. Well, thank you for subbing. I so appreciate that, man. So he said, so his question was, is like, I also have Ayuk if that changes anything as well. I have to go back up and actually look. Oh, between Deontay and Mike Evans, no, I wouldn't play Ayuk over both of those guys. No, I wouldn't do that. So I have a question for you, Lord. So who's somebody that you are concerned about that is like dependent on that? Like you have to start, right? Like you have to start him, but you're concerned like with either this week or one of his matchups in the playoffs.
Well, I go to a guy that I personally have on my own rosters, and that's Michael Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
Taysom Hill's first game against the Falcons. So Taysom Hill has started 3 games at quarterback. 2 of those have been against the Falcons. That one against Denver, he looked like how I thought he would look versus a quarterback. But that's because that's a real defense. The Falcons' defensive backs, they get lost. They've gotten lost all year. Michael Thomas's first game with Taysom Hill starting at quarterback, he caught 9 passes for 100 yards, right? For 104 yards. But he was running wide open. Now, I expect most guys playing quarterback to hit a wide open guy. Now that they're playing the Eagles, they got Fletcher Cox on that defensive line. They're playing a team that has something to lose on defense. They're not a terrible defense by any. They're a middle of the pack defense. So I'm worrying about Taysom Hill and how they're gonna run that offense to win the game. You know what I'm saying? They just want to win the game against Denver. Taysom Hill didn't throw the ball well, but they won the game with him running the ball, and Michael Thomas didn't do much. So for this week, Michael Thomas is a stud that I'm worried about in his fantasy matchup.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. And then I think that's what really, about not Michael Thomas, the player himself, just, a guy that you drafted in your first round that you're probably not going to be able to sit and, at this point, right? No matter what. And, that's the hard part with these decisions, right? And then sometimes people get a little too cute and they start overthinking things and they're like, oh, this guy has a bad matchup. It's a stud receiver. I'm going to play this guy who has a sneaky matchup.
And as I say this is not me saying bench Michael Thomas because I'm going to start him.
Right.
But it's just that's something you got to look out for. Another guy is James Conner, who will be coming back from the Rona.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh just not good at running the ball. Now, Buffalo, they are a pretty good defense in the NFL, but you could do stuff on them from time to time. But Pittsburgh they can't run the ball like
at all.
If you saw versus Washington, they ran 4 running plays at the goal line, at the 1 yard line.
Oh my God, Lord! Breaking news. You ready?
What's that?
Myles Gaskin got placed on the COVID list. He is out for the Kansas City Chiefs game.
You gotta be kidding.
I'm dead serious.
Who's the backup?
Who is playing? Dwayne Washington?
Yeah, I think he out too.
Oh my goodness. So for anybody who's jumping in, because I see that the viewers are jumping up and down, for anybody who has any questions regarding Myles Gaskin, for anybody with questions about Myles Gaskin is out against Kansas City and will not play this week. That's a body blow. That's a body blow to a lot of people.
Blow, man. That is tough. Ooh. I actually had him in my daily fantasy as well. He was cheap.
Yeah.
I don't even let's see. So they got Washington. They got Lynn Bowden,
Patrick Laird. It's Laird season again. Matt Breida is not playing.
I don't think he's playing. You gotta be joking.
I'm glad we did this now because we can break the news right here. I didn't break it. Adam Schefter did. I've got his alert.
I see it now.
All right. Here, so we'll let other people ask questions because they're gonna have to replace Myles Gaskin. Anybody that's in here that has them, you have to run through your options at this point so we could tell you who to play. I wouldn't run to any Miami back at this point. Like I'm not running to whoever it is that they announce. I'm not running to that. I'm not. That's a do not touch.
It's just you don't know how they're gonna approach that now, and that kind of like Honestly, man, I was thinking that could be the upset of the week.
Yeah. Oof, man. I don't know now. That's going to be tough, man.
No
All right,
shot
let's,
now.
let's take
Not that
another
he.
question. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
that's
bro. That really
Hawkinson all day.
over Tunyon.
TJ Hawkinson. Yeah, I mean, who they got?
They're playing each other.
Marvin Jones. You expect Lions to be throwing the whole game.
Yeah.
No Kenny Galladay. Is Marvin Jones playing? Even if he is, Hawkinson's been pretty consistent this year. Tunyon, he did score last week, and then that's what you're looking for in Tunyon is the touchdown. I'd rather go with the tight end who has more volume.
Okay. So ISO only had another question. So I'm a little worried about Eckler just because he doesn't get any red zone touches, but Falcons aren't good, so we'll see. So I don't know if that's necessarily all the way true, bro. Just because it was crazy when this offense was built with Tyrod Taylor. People assumed that he would be throwing the ball to Eckler, but when Tyrod Taylor was in there, he was not getting Eckler the ball at all. Fast forward to them putting in Justin Herbert, and now he's getting that elite volume that everybody wanted. So I wouldn't be worried about playing him in a game.
I would feel absolutely amazing,
right?
If I had Austin Eckler right now,
right.
In my fantasy playoffs, about to play the Atlanta Falcons.
For sure. I mean, he's going to go off this week and probably win a week. I wouldn't worry about that at all.
Even if he doesn't score.
Right. So Zachary Greer, this is why I can't play Among Us. Zach, I'm on my show. McLaurin or Mike Evans. And yeah, look at your face because that one's really tough, right?
Yeah, but I gotta go Evans.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think I do too, just because of, better quarterback, better matchup. That too, that's really what it's got to be at this point. So it's like, yeah, I mean, that's a tough one though. That's a tough
Vikings aren't holding anybody down.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Man, that Myles Gaskin thing is a bummer. That's crazy.
Like I just put in Mostert for Myles Gaskin in one of my leagues. That hurts, man. I like that kid.
Yeah, no, he's been playing really well, and he was a gem. Like to find him on that's the thing, right? So like when this is, I mean, I guess we could talk a little bit about advice, like when it comes to this, right? So people think that you have a great draft and your season's over. Well, no, most of the time, by the time your season's over, your team's not gonna look anything like you drafted. And if you're playing the waiver wire and you find those gems, like, did anybody think Myles Gaskin would be the starter for Miami? Never. And to have
James Robinson.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Actually, remember with the James Robinson, when I really was just like, he is the man. It's when we met up.
Yep.
That's
the first day that you and I met. Yep.
We were watching them play the Dolphins, and Gaskins that game as well. He did his thing.
He took over, right? We even were like, oh wow, like they're really giving him all the run.
Yeah, so we watched two running backs, and that was early, maybe week 3 or 4. And we just saw two backs who nobody drafted come into their own.
So, bro, thank you for coming on. Like, it's getting close to an hour, so we could, unless people have more questions, we can go. But I want to ask you this: like, in a week, where you have to make all the decisions, right? There's like, I feel like there's like a wealth of waiver wire running backs this week that people are going to have to decide from, right? The guy you picked up in like Mike Davis, maybe Nyheim Hines, maybe McKissick. Like
that kid Ty Johnson as well.
Right, exactly. So those guys that that's the hard part about playing the waiver wire. Sometimes you gobble up all the good players, but then you're stuck trying to figure out which of them that you have to play, and it ends up with, I mean, it's good they're not on somebody's team, but then you're stuck trying to figure out who to play. So from Gallman, Gio Bernard, J.D. McKissick, Nyheim Hines, Mike Davis, out of those 5, where would you rank them this week in terms of who needs to play?
Say that again.
So Gio against the Cowboys, Gallman against Arizona. Yeah, Gallman against Arizona, McKissick against the Niners, Nyheim Hines against Las Vegas, and Mike Davis against Denver.
I would have it just that order you said it, except I would put Nyheim Hines last and Mike Davis 4th. Okay. No, I'm sorry. Mike Davis ahead of J.D. McKissick. So I would go Gio versus the Cowboys.
Uh-huh.
Gallman versus the Cardinals, Gallman, and then McKissick and Hines.
Okay. That makes sense, actually. That's pretty close to where I had it. So we'll take one more question right here. Go Niners asked Ryan Tannehill, Justin Herbert, or Lamar Jackson. I know, look, if for anybody who doesn't know Lord is the most pro Lamar Jackson guy out there, man. Like that's what I know about him, man. So, you let me know. And that's a lot of firepower that you have there at quarterback too.
Yeah, like, that's tough, man, because I do expect Lamar Jackson to do something like in a major way.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't ignore
Justin Herbert against Atlanta.
And he's coming off the worst game of his young career. If it was me personally, I couldn't sit Lamar because of the situation the Ravens are in. And it's now or never for the Ravens.
Yeah.
But Herbert and those lost Falcon DBs, he gotta play better than what he did last week. I would go Justin Herbert.
Okay. So it's so funny that he had these three options because the consensus rankings have them back to back to back. Ryan Tannehill 4. Yeah.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna look at my rankings
so,
right now.
While you pull that up, I'll talk about this. So Ryan Tannehill 4, Justin Herbert 5, Lamar Jackson 6.
I definitely don't have Tannehill 4.
Yeah, but I mean, remember, it's the consensus, the ECR. So that's not, that's that aggregate of people scoring. But that means that everybody's pretty high on him.
I actually have Lamar 3, Tannehill 6, and Herbert 7. So I do have all three of them. I would say the reason I have Lamar Jackson that high is because of the rushing upside. But it is hard. But then again, how many guys have the choice of Lamar Jackson, Herbert, and Tanny?
It seems like you almost can't go wrong with any of them, unless you need to set the perfect lineup. Like there are instances where you need to set the perfect lineup to beat a really tough team. And if that's the case, then yeah. But I mean, if you kind of just threw a dart at all three of them, you should be fine.
Yeah, like I don't expect any duds here. Like you getting 20 plus out of all of them. Who would you go with, Jay?
You know what? I think I'm just gonna do Herbert just because, like you said, with the Falcons and everything, and I think that it's important what you said about him coming off of that bad game. Because I think that this is a bounce back spot, get right for them. So to have 0 points, no matter whatever you want to judge, however Anthony Lynn and that offense is moving, they're still gonna score points in this game. They're gonna need to score points as the Falcons should, I think, in this game. So yeah, I think it's with Herbert, man. It's so crazy because week to week, you would have never have thought. Week 1, I would have came to you and said, in week 14, I'm talking about benching Lamar Jackson for Justin Herbert. You'd have said, in what world, bro? So, I mean, crazy, man. Hey,
I always thought his value was high coming into this season. See, a lot of last year, I had him on every team. This year, I had him on one team, and that's because he was an 11th round keeper. So I kept him. Other than that, I just couldn't go second or third, because I'd rather just go find somebody else later, Kyler in the 6th or 7th.
Yep.
So next year I won't have Kyler because people are gonna,
overdraft him. Right. So, Lord, I want to thank you, man, for jumping on. This was fun, man. If we'll talk. Maybe you want to do something like this, maybe weekly or whatever. This is good. We had some good engagement, and I feel like there's a little bit of a lull. Like we could definitely have more engagement in here too, man.
Sure, so definitely, man. This was fun.
Yeah, man. And I'm glad we set this up short notice. And I'm glad that you moved some things around so you could jump on here with me. I appreciate it. I want you to get back to watching your college football because I know you're missing it right now.
So I see it now. I just got the volume down.
All right, perfect.
All right, man. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, and let them know one more time where to find you and everything. Let me take this out the way real quick.
Yeah. So as you can see on the screen, you can find me on Twitter at Lord Don't Lose. I'm also extremely active on Instagram at Fantasy Football Lord, and that's where you could see my weekly podcast and stuff. So check me out, hit me up on there. I do all that, and I'll catch up with y'all next time, man.
Yep. Thank you guys for tuning in. And you know what? If this was fun, I'll talk to you guys on Twitter. You let me know if you want us to do it again next week. And then, we'll do it to see if we can help you win a fantasy championship. So thanks for everybody tuning in and giving questions and everything. Really appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
For sure, man. Peace.